We're going to put you guys out of business, period. You don't get to exist. Your inflation is sky high. Your economy is crumbling. You people are fighting. No, before that happens, we come for you. I'm sorry. That's just how this goes. All right, so this is the segment that started it all for this particular show. We teased it a little bit and said a lot of people are telling you that the dollar is in trouble, and we asked chat, and they overwhelmingly said, yes, look, I'd like to dive into this a little bit more. And really, this was kind of my journey in this. Like, I understand the impact that having a reserve currency can make, and I understand some of the bigger points to what's going on, but some people would kind of skim over the points that I thought made the argument much stronger, like why this is a problem, how this would affect people on a daily basis, and whether this is really a problem now or if it's a potential problem later. But according to these pundits, you would think that this is basically going to happen right now, that the US dollar is about to lose its power.
The dollar is facing a revolt. The world knows it as the king of currencies, but the dominance of the dollar is now under threat. More and more countries are looking for alternatives, and China's yuan is emerging as a clear challenger.
Well, the world is freaking out over the idea that the US dollar supremacy is being faded away, that the US is going to get pushed into a corner, and China is going to take over the world.
So but what would happen if it ended? You don't even really want to think about that because the consequences would be too ugly, really ugly.
If that were to end, that would mean the end of the U.S. dollar.
Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard. Wrong. Which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. There will be no defeat like that.
So look, are these concerns about the dollar losing its reserve status, are they valid? Or do you think people are overreacting, overblowing it, wanting to say breaking news, wanting to make sure that they scare you? Because when we started talking about this story, there was a lot of fear porn out there, right? Basically just trying to scare people into doing something. And that's a pretty common thing that you'll see is people say, oh my gosh, this is dire. You have to pay attention. We're not saying this is dire. You have to watch this show to find out about how bad it's going to be. We're saying, hey, everybody else is saying it's dire. We want to make sure you have the right information so that you can make that judgment for yourself and kind of cut through some of the noise. Let's go through a couple of the claims, right? Some of the things that people are saying about the sky is falling and the US dollar is going to lose all its value. The BRICS countries are ditching the dollar, and that will hurt the United States.
Today, Brazil, in our hemisphere, largest country in the Western Hemisphere south of us, cut a trade deal with China. They're going to, from now on, do trade in their own currencies, get right around the dollar. They're creating a secondary economy in the world.
Man,
totally
he doesn't look good at all.
Independent of the United States. We won't have to talk about sanctions in 5 years because there'll be so many countries transacting in currencies other than the dollar that we won't have the ability to sanction them.
Okay,
he's reading off a prompter.
Yeah, he is definitely reading off a prompter. He's wrong. And by the way, guys, I don't know if you knew this. Brazil, big country to the south of the United States. That's Marco Rubio.
Really?
He just told me that.
Dang.
I had no idea.
Guy's a genius.
Whoa. He led that off with it. It's like, Brazil, that large economy to the south of the United States. I'm like, I had no idea where it was. Wow. I thought it was in Africa somewhere.
Like Poland or
Jeez. Thanks, Marco.
Bullshit.
You bullshit. All right. So here's the truth, right? Sanctioning countries will definitely be a little bit harder, right? So you can't freeze the assets. China's growth has made this kind of an inevitable thing that there will be a little bit of a workaround, but the United States will still have reserve currency status. This is not going away quickly, and so those sanctions will still be very effective for a long time. He said 5 years. This is like the predictions that the Great Lakes would be dried up by now. This is like Lake Mead would be dried up by now. This is like, don't buy oceanfront property because climate change is going to end it all in 12 years kind of prediction. 5 years, no way in hell, unless, of course, hell comes to Earth, which, yes, it can possibly do that with like a world war or something like that. Lane.
Well, I just wanted to add, they're making it seem like this was all U.S. policy and how we treated the dollar. And obviously the Biden administration has blown out the dollar. There's no question.
Oh, for sure.
But with a challenging superpower to us, this was always going to happen. We had a nice 70 years. We had a nice 30 years. We were unipolar. But there was always going to be another country come to challenge. And when they do, they would want to get away from our system, and that's China. So in some regards, this was always going to happen to an extent.
Yeah.
It was an unavoidable issue.
Well, for a long time, it was Japan. Japan was the rising economic power, right? And people think that just because you're currently on the rise, that you'll always be on the rise. And that's not what we're seeing in China either. Right. It wasn't what we saw in Japan. Obviously, that played out. It wasn't what we saw in Russia. That played out as well. Japan, China having the same kind of trajectories where I think China's starting to cool off a little bit. And they're going to have a population problem.
When you kill like half your women in the womb, it doesn't bode well.
Makes your men angry. Lack of sex.
Yeah.
Or import them from Vietnam.
They turn gay.
They cart them off because they tested positive for COVID.
They're turning all the Asians gay. Here's another truth. I'll get out of Alex Jones' voice and not lose mine. It does little to reduce global demand for the U.S. dollars because, listen, where are you going to put your money, right? The developed nations are still going to trade in U.S. dollars because that's the currency, one, that they have, and two, that they're used to using, and three, that there's no real other safe place. I mean, you can say the euro, but not really. We'll talk about that in a second. I mean, it's some percentage of it, but the U.S. dollar is involved in 88% of all currency trade, right? That is 88%. 100% is the max. Yeah. Not a joke. Right? There's a lot of speculation, too. I just want you to know over what the currency is going to look like if Donald Trump is reelected. And I think, he'd want to put his own personal kind of stamp on it and maybe look something like this.
Look at this guy.
That's just what he sent to the DA in New York. I think it's just like a little personal gift. Yeah. And by the way, he would never be on a $1 bill, guys. I just need you to know.
Yeah, right. That's how he paid Bill.
It's $1,000 bills only. That's his change.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's a Stormy Daniels payoff money.
Somebody says you have change for 100, and he's like, 100 is change. That's Donald Trump, right? All right, so here's another truth. The BRICS nations are not politically aligned. Especially India and China. So lest you think that these people all are just, linking arms and we are the world and they're fantastic brethren. In June of 2020, there were 20 Indian troops that were killed in a border skirmish with China.
Now, let's talk about the Indian Army, which is saying 20 of its soldiers have been killed by Chinese troops in the disputed Kashmir region. This is the first deadly clash on this border in 45 years.
I do think it's a little bit rich that the people that caused the problems over there are now reporting on it and saying, oh, this is very terrible. I can't believe it. Kashmir. I mean, why would they have problems? It was just our place. When we owned it, no problems, right?
Those poor Indian bastards.
Yeah. You poor bastards. We're not sorry. In January of 2023, Indian polls named China as the greatest threat. Now, I didn't think that was true. And you told me that, Lane the Brain.
Yeah,
you
I think
said
it was
China, and I said, no, they hate Pakistanis way more.
I should have put the figures in there, but I believe it's something like 33%, and then the next was Pakistan at 14 or 7. It was substantially lower.
I've been lied to my whole life. I thought the Indians and the Pakistanis hated each other.
It's like, do the Germans and French hate each other more than the Germans hate the Chinese or what? Probably, but there's no real threat from Pakistan. I guess they could drop a nuke.
But they have border conflicts all the time.
They do, but they can't. They have no real economic power. They're not trying to.
I feel like I don't know anything now.
Well,
need a new stinger.
Just
we can make that happen.
Gerald knows nothing yet. Thanks a lot. Ask and you shall receive, apparently, on this show.
Sometimes when I get those calls from Louisville offering me gold, I talk with David for a while and learn about his background.
Yeah.
That's how I found out so much.
I mean, they could still all hate each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, they do.
Thank you, Tim. They can still all hate each other. The bright side. So here's another claim. The Saudis, folks, are going to stop trading oil in dollars.
We've got America's enemies, led by China, forming a new economic bloc. And all it would take at this point now, because we're at this pivotal moment, Will, is for Saudi Arabia, who has indicated that they're open to this, to say, you know what, we're going to be open to considering other currencies to trade in oil. If that were to happen, there would be a complete implosion of the global economic system, but certainly the American economic system. And if that were to happen, you'd be looking at sky-high inflation, just raging Weimar Republic kind of inflation. If you think inflation is bad now, just wait. But more importantly, we would lose our economic dominance and we would lose our superpower status.
We have superpower.
Clutch my pearls.
Sorry. That's so dumb.
It's pretty. So let me just get this straight. So Saudi Arabia, with no distinguishable military to fend off an attack by us, is going to stop trading in the U.S. dollar, which will probably cause the world to burn down. Your words, not mine. And that's good for them in selling oil? Do you understand what happens when economies start slowing down and shutting down, like you said, and you have hyperinflation? You probably don't need as much oil. Probably devalues the very product that you live off of. And by the way, like I said, I'm going to go back to point number one. You guys do that and try to destabilize the United States. We fight before we can't, right? All of a sudden, you guys are a beach destination for the United States citizen. Well, it's another country that is now part of the United States. Thank you. We'll take the oil. You don't want to start a fight and say, we're going to put you guys out of business, period. You don't get to exist. Your inflation is sky high. Your economy is crumbling. You people are fighting. No, before that happens, we come for you. I'm sorry. That's just how this goes. At certain points, I have to feed my family. I will steal some bread. You've got oil and you can't really defend yourselves.
The entire basis of trading or pricing oil in dollars is because in 1944 we met with the Saudis. They're like, oh crap, we can't defend ourselves.
Yes.
You defend us.
That's the whole point.
We'll trade oil in dollars.
Yeah, exactly. How about you guys buddy up with some of the other Islamic countries out there that don't want to kill you? It's a very short list.
Good luck.
You guys are the traitors. You understand that, right? Like, you're the guys that let the United States in and have bases in the Holy Lands for you. Like, this is a bad deal.
Gang, gang.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Geez. Got gang signs from Lane over there. I didn't even know that was happening. Well, look, I said it. Here's the truth to that, right? So probably not. Yuan isn't liquid. The Yuan is heavily managed by the opaque CCP, the Communist Chinese Party. And look, when I say heavily managed, they're like, let's just keep it right here because that works for us and we have cheap goods for everybody to purchase. The minute it starts going up, no more free stuff or virtually free stuff. And it would open the door for other countries to demand trade in their country. So look, imagine if Canada were to make this kind of demand. I think we all know what the currency from Canada would look like if they were to do that.
Homo.
Oh, there we go. Man, you should see the 100 Canadian dollar bill. It's the full blackface. Right, it's the full one with the jeans that
vertical.
are cut. It's the vertical. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of times you hear people citing, "Well, China's the biggest importer of Saudi oil, so they can demand what they want." Okay, sure, that's true. But then if you put Japan and Korea together, they're greater than China.
They're greater.
You put Japan, Korea, Taiwan together, they're much greater. So why couldn't these countries just say, "Okay, well, you're going to price our trade in our currency now"?
Yeah, exactly.
China doesn't have that much leverage.
No, and I really don't think you don't want to start this war because you're not in a position to win it. Right. And I don't think Saudi Arabia is in a position right now to really piss off the United States. I think this is posturing by Saudi Arabia. They don't want us to be energy independent like we were under Donald Trump. Right. They want us to be dependent on them. And so maybe we'll cut back oil production here a little bit. Maybe we'll start doing some other deals over here. Oh, United States, you want to talk? You want to negotiate and get through this process? It just seems like a lot of posturing to me. Not like they're going to become buddy-buddy with Iran tomorrow, which I think they've started working on. I'm like, there's no way.
No.
They hate each other so much. You guys have no idea. They're both Islamic, but one of them would say the other is not Islamic. It's like Protestants and Catholics in England, right? Didn't work out too well for the
They're like, stop
Catholics.
shooting. We just want to sell you oil.
Exactly. We're just going to give it to you for free now. Fine. So she didn't even ask Saudi Arabia to price oil in the yuan. And I'll read a quote from Bloomberg here. Rather than pricing oil in yuan, as many had expected, she simply asked Middle East producers to accept payments in yuan. So just take the money that is valueless in some ways because we can just kind of manipulate it every time we want to and take that in exchange instead of the reserve money that we have in US dollars, not price it in yuan.
Well, and after you get the yuan, you can just go change that to dollars right away because
they do.
Because you're going to.
Yeah.
It's just to make them look uppity on the world stage. That's all they want to do.
Good point.
So, look, it's everybody knows that China manipulates the commodity prices through manipulating their currency value, right? And so we talked about it earlier where manufacturing is cheaper, like the skilled labor or the low skilled labor that you need to be able to produce these products that the world wants to buy in kind of these mass quantities and keep the prices really low. For example, certain products that I've seen before kind of in looking into this were twice as much in the United States, right? They went from like $6 or $7 a piece to $15 per item that I was looking at in my other business. And I just couldn't believe, I was like, my gosh, how could, because you've got shipping that's much more expensive to get it over here than obviously buying it somewhere in the United States and just having it sent by rail. But it was so much cheaper. Well, they do that by manipulating their commodity prices. Otherwise, China wouldn't exist as a country today that had any standing in the world. If they let their currency actually float and not be pegged to the US dollar, right? So the currency being pegged to us, if they did that, that would be 100% terrible for them. They would go into the dark ages so fast because their pricing, the pricing lead that they had would evaporate. The world would not have to go to them. Now, look, I understand you can't flip the switch on manufacturing overnight. Every country in the world, though, now would have an incentive to start building their own factories now because it's going to be much more competitive. so that they can sell their products on the world.
The one thing China has is cost competitiveness, and now they don't have that. So what are we doing?
The other thing is theft. That's right. They steal most of their IP. They don't actually invent things. They just, if you want to get a patent that works in China, you have to submit detailed plans.
Yeah.
Much like here in the United States, except those are kept secret and actually you can't steal them. But if you go over there, you have to submit it, and they can basically be like, yeah, it's a great idea, this phone thing. That's awesome. Yeah, we're going to keep that.
And you have to leave the market now.
Yeah, and you're no longer allowed here. Uber. Oh, man, Uber. Ride sharing? Bah, awesome. Fantastic. We've got a guy over here who wants to do it. So he's going to take all your IP and make it happen.
You lose. Well,
it's merely hundreds of billions a year. So
absolutely.
Well, they just steal products there anyway. You make it a unique American product. They'll just buy it in China. They'll find a way to manufacture it and sell it for like pennies on a dollar.
Well, that's part of like getting into the market. Like Gerald said, you literally have to share patents with them. You have to say, here's our intellectual property. Here's what we're doing. Don't use it. And they'll be like, okay, we won't use it.
We won't.
Wink, bye.
We swear. We won't use it.
That's a terrible accent.
Do you have any launch codes?
I don't do impressions.
All right, so here's another claim. I don't know that we needed to know that, Tim. I think we figured that one out.
Yeah,
the yuan is going to replace the dollar. All right, so this headline from Foreign Policy is a regular occurrence in the media these days, and it reads, so the quote from Foreign Policy, I guess it's a publication of sorts, China is quietly trying to dethrone the dollar. Okay, look, here's the truth. There is no viable alternative to the dollar. Next best currency is the euro and not the yuan. It's not even close. Here's Goldman Sachs commodities trader and author Michael Cow explaining why.
What has to happen for the yuan to supplant the U.S.? Number one, China would have to prove that it will be a better benefactor and more trustworthy sort of steward of the global commons than the U.S.
Donald Trump don't trust China.
I don't see that happening in almost any circumstance.
It's so
He
true.
called it.
That was perfect.
Goodness. Oh, I love it. And look, the Chinese yuan isn't actually freely convertible. Like the Chinese market's not transparent, so you can't freely convert that over. Look, just don't worry too much about that. But look, Steve Forbes also addressed the claim this weekend here.
Well, China's several years has made very clear, along with the Russians, they want to downgrade the dollar because they think that'll enhance their power around the world. And certainly the way we've treated the dollar over the year has gone in that direction. However, people are not going to trust the Chinese yuan. You may get these one-off deals like they're doing with the French, but China does not have real capital markets. China has capital controls.
Right.
And so in terms of currency, people are going to prefer the dollar to the yuan. And so in that sense, I think we've got some time to get our house in order.
So look, the dollar is much more popular than the yuan anyway. If it was a popularity contest, we win, right? So U.S. dollars as top reserve currencies, 59.8%. The yuan, 2.8%.
Not good.
You were this close, yuan. This close, right? And only 2.2 of the SWIFT transactions between countries are in yuan. So no worry there, right? So here's another claim. China can wreck the dollar by selling off the securities. Watch.
The third thing that they can do, and this is what we call the nuclear option, is that they can either stop buying U.S. treasuries or they can actually start selling U.S. treasuries back into the market. So if China is not a big player in that market, it could make life very difficult for the U.S.
Womp womp. Look, by flooding, this is the argument, by flooding the market, China can basically artificially lower the value of bonds, right? And therefore increase the interest. So if the values or the bonds are worth less, then you have to offer people a little bit more money to buy them. And that's not true. So here's the truth. China owns just a fraction of US debt. There is video after video on this where the Chinese are talking about, don't worry, we own these people, and laughing. I think there was one we covered on the show that was pretty funny.
Well, that goes around like popular circles here too. People
it does.
Not in the office, but I mean in America, people are like, oh, China owns us.
Of course, that's what we've thought of, right? So the total debt for the United States is $30 trillion.
Not good.
Wow. 30 trillion. Don't get me into unfunded liabilities.
But a TikToker said that they own us.
Well, we have, if anybody's going to make a claim, Japan can claim it more than China. Japan holds 1.3 trillion and China only holds 1.06. Do better, China. Buy some more debt. You guys want to be a player?
Japan historically tends to be victorious over China in a lot of areas.
They really, and just very cruel too.
Yeah.
Now, the way that China's acting, I'm kind of like, all right, fine, I get it. You guys have known these guys a lot longer than we have, and they were jerks, and you kind of put them down for it.
Nanking might have been a step over the line, though.
Yes, of course. I'm being sarcastic. Most U.S. debt is held by domestic investors, right? It's not even held by foreign investors. 67% of U.S. debt, domestic investors. 33%, that adds up to 100, right? Foreign investors. Truth, too, here. China needs U.S. debt. China buys U.S. debt, and the United States buy Chinese exports. It works really, really well, right? They need us. If it sold all of the debt, the yuan would strengthen against the dollar. The trade deficit would accrue. And that basically means no more cheap crap coming from China, which means the end of their economy. I've laid this out to you already. That wouldn't happen for them. They would be shooting themselves. They would be cutting off their nose to spite their face, right? They would absolutely be doing more harm to themselves because their only leg up right now is we have cheap goods.
And the thing is, most of these economists know this, and these outlets know this, but they title Chinese nuclear option. And at the very end, They're like, but they probably won't use it because
no. Look, again, they're going for the breaking news, and I'm about to wrap this up and kind of tie this in a nice bow for you. But look, even if that happened and the United States no longer could sell debt to China, oh no, we would sell it to other countries. Other countries want to buy our debt. We're fine. I don't think that's a problem at all. All of these people that are basically fear-mongering right now are just trying to tell you a story so that you'll listen, that you'll be afraid, that you'll tune in for the next installment, that you'll subscribe to their podcast, you'll do whatever you want. Basically, you just need to know that's not what's going to happen. If the U.S. dollar faces problems, it's going to be a long process, and it's not going to be this 5-year deal that we heard about just a minute ago. And it won't have the same kind of ramifications because it's not an irreversible process. If people start complaining enough about it, the United States maybe changes some monetary policy, changes how we interact, and all of a sudden, we have a basket full of goodies that we can incentivize people to keep buying our debt with. It's not like we can't fix this problem and we'll just take over Saudi Arabia for fun at that point and take all the oil. I think we always take the oil, right? I mean, that's always on the table.
We have never done that.
Oh, no, never.
No.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.